Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 9 of the Nations Cup. Let's get this started. Before you start your flying lap, start to charge your battery by pressing on the throttle and a bit on the brakes. It's better if you do this on a low gear like first or second gear. So you can start it from the moment the time trial mode starts, and right before you approach this turn, that's when you start to go a full race pace and go ahead and start your flying lap. So for this first turn, you want to bring yourself to the left side of the track and brake right before the 100-meter mark. Just focus on getting the car to rotate, because the moment you start to accelerate, the batteries will kick in and your car will lose a bit of the ability to steer. Right before you pass the 100-meter mark, you want to start to brake. Try to brake as much as you can in a straight line, then slowly start to ease up on the brakes and start to turn in. Just try to hit the apex and carefully start to accelerate. Even though you are in a 4-wheel drive car, it is still possible to spin out. Then once again, before you reach the 100-meter mark, you want to start to brake in as straight of a line as possible. Do not brake on the curbs. Slowly start to ease up on the brakes and just focus on getting that car to rotate as much as you can before you start to fully accelerate. Then brake before the 50-meter mark. Bring yourself all the way to the inside. Slowly start to accelerate, bring yourself to the right, and brake right after the piece of track on the right joins in with the main track. Just try to straighten out the car so the battery can kick in once you're done with your turn. Use the 50-meter sign as your braking point, bring yourself all the way to the left, and for your final braking point, brake right before the red and white area on the left ends. Do not get too greedy with the track limits on the inside of the turn, otherwise you'll end up with an off-track penalty. But that's all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and talk about the strategies. For the qualifying session, you only have 5 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time. However, we are in Group 1 cars, so they're going to be pretty fast even on their first gear. So because of that, we can actually do 2 fuel burning laps before we go in for a new set of racing soft tires, do the out lap, and right before we start our flying lap, we can charge the batteries and then start our qualifying pace right before we reach the final corner. So we're going to start fuel burning here. Just take our time until we are about 3 corners away from finishing this first fuel burning lap. So right around here, we're just going to start to speed things up a little bit, because we still have a couple more things that we need to do, and we need to make sure that we have enough time to complete all these things. So after we reach the first corner, that is when we're going to start to speed things up even more. Just try to fuel burn at a faster rate of speed, to the point where we're kind of just going flat out, just so we can make sure that we have enough time to do what we need to do. And I say that because if you're running short on time, you risk getting yourself a penalty or spinning out, or worst case of all, you end up running out of time and you don't even put a qualifying lap to begin with. So at this point, we're just going as fast as we can at the end of our second fuel burning lap, because we need to go ahead and change our tires. So switch on over to racing soft tires, and the moment that we leave the pit stop, we're just going to go as fast as we can. This is so 1, we can warm up the tires, and 2, so we can have just enough time to charge the batteries on the car. So we're just going to speed things up right away, just go flat out, and then once we reach this part of the track, we can start to slow down just a little bit. Just start to charge the batteries on the car by pressing on the throttle and a bit on the brakes. It's better if you do this on a low gear like first or second gear. So we want to give ourselves just enough distance so we can fully charge the car's batteries, and then right before we enter this final corner, that is when we start to go as fast as we can, because we are now about to start our flying lap. Also, I would like to note, make sure that you're not in anyone's way, because if you are in someone's way as you charge the batteries, they are not going to be happy about you. So with the batteries fully charged, we will be able to use it to our full extent as we go throughout the lap, which will help us get a much better qualifying time. So at the end of this qualifying session, we are going to be able to get a 1:15.7, which is a pretty darn good lap. As for the race strategy itself, if you're going for a 2-stop strategy, then you're going to want to see where you start. So after the qualifying session, check where you're starting, and then with that information, determine the tire order that you'll be using. Up on the screen right now are a couple of examples that you can use, and these can be changed to the way you like it. So for example, if you're starting in the middle, you can start on racing medium, then go on over to racing hard tires, and then go on over to racing soft tires. Or you can switch it up with the hard and soft tires. So instead of doing medium, hard, soft, you do medium, soft, hard. If you're starting in the front or in the middle, you can start on racing medium tires. That way you can get some decent lap times with some tires that last a little bit longer but have a decent amount of grip. And then you can save the racing soft tires towards the middle or the end. If you save the racing soft tires towards the end, your car will be pretty light since you'll be using quite a bit of fuel in this race. You won't have to refuel, which is a good thing, but with the racing soft tires towards the final stint, you'll be able to get the car to go at its fastest, so you'll have a much better chance of getting much faster times. You'll also be on the offensive with the racing soft tires towards the end, so you'll be able to catch up to those on racing medium or hard tires and perform some overtakes on them. If you're starting towards the back, you can start on racing hard tires. That way you can just get those tires out of the way and then gradually build yourself up to go on a more offensive stance by switching over to racing medium tires for the middle stint, and then eventually switch on over to racing soft tires for your final stint. And once again, for whichever tire strategy you use, you don't have to refuel at all. All you're worrying about are the tires, making sure that they don't wear out on you too much. Switch on over when you need to, and make sure you get those tire requirements out of the way. For the tire wear, racing soft tires lasted me about 8 laps, and racing medium tires lasted about 10 laps. This was done without the slipstream, so depending on your driving style and if you're constantly under someone's slipstream, the tire wear rate might be a little bit higher than what I experienced, which might result in you having to pit a little bit earlier to switch out of your racing soft and medium tires. Because of that, your racing hard tire stint might be a little bit longer than 2 laps, but either way, just throughout the race, just every now and then, take a look at how your tires are doing. If they're pretty worn out, and if you feel like you're struggling to get the car to go through some of these turns, then start to think about whether it's time to switch out of your current tires over to a new set of whichever tires that you need to get onto next. And I'd also like to note for the last thing, one stop is possible since racing medium and hard tires are the only required tires. So you can do a 2 stint starting on racing medium tires, then going over to racing hard tires, or vice versa. The only thing is that you're on slower tires, and especially for racing hard tires, you're on it for much longer, so you open yourself up to be attacked by those on racing medium and soft tires. That, and even without racing anyone overall, the 1 stint or the 1 stop was a bit slower than a 2 stop. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this guide. I would also like to give a huge thanks to every single one of you for the amazing levels of support, as we just hit 4,000 subscribers on the 11th of April. I would also like to give a shout out to Starvazer, as he helped me out with the qualifying session, as you saw earlier in the video. The manufacturer guide video will be coming out a little bit later because it's almost 4 in the morning over here, so I'm going to get some sleep before I start editing that video. But anyways, it is time for me to sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA going to sleep right now, and I'll see you in the next video.